Thank you for such a kind introduction. And can I start by thanking the President of the Union for his very generous invitation to come here. Can I thank you all for braving the elements to make it to the Oxford Union. Some of you very ungenerously suggested that I brought the weather here from Scotland. Can I say that is positively shorts and t-shirt weather outside from where I come from? But it's a pleasure to be here. President, thank you again for the very kind invitation. You've not had the easiest time as President, and I'm saying that as somebody who had some of his challenges in a leadership role. There are many reasons to be thankful for such a wonderful opportunity. For me, most importantly, you have, after all these years, given me the greatest gift any person of South Asian descent could wish for, their parents' approval. For all that I have been blessed to achieve in life, it was only recently when I mentioned to my father that I was giving an address at the Oxford Union, did his face light up and did he beam with pride that finally one of his children is going to Oxford. Not any old university, of course, but one that legendary World Cup winning captain Imran Khan attended, no less. Could it get any better for my father? And as an aside, being in this wonderful, illustrious university where Imran Khan studied and grew as a person, indeed grew as a cricketer, makes it all the more disheartening that he remains in prison, I must say. Pakistan is a country that will forever be close to my heart. And while I do not affiliate with any political party in Pakistan, let me be clear, the continual cycle of jailing political opponents every time there is an election fundamentally undermines the democratic principles of that nation. The expression, there's one Imran Khan supporter, at least in the room. The expression you see of differing viewpoints, different political traditions, is a sign, in my view, of a very mature nation, also of a very mature institution. This union that is steeped in such illustrious history is one of the most wonderful examples, I believe, of that tradition. A union that prides itself on free speech, on offering a platform to all. Is there another institution in the world that has given a platform to both Winston Churchill and Jeremy Corbyn, to Ronald Reagan and Bernie Sanders, to Theresa May and her kindred spirit, Shakira? That I get to join the pantheon of such notable speakers, including one of my all-time favourites, Malcolm X, is an enormous honour. So I only intend to speak for a brief period, and I'm really looking forward to engaging with the President and, of course, in engaging with all of you here. My office, when we were in conversation with the Union about my contribution, we asked if there was a particular topic that the Union wanted me to address. Your time as First Minister, came the response. But of course that would be far too brief a contribution, well certainly for my liking, I must confess. So the Union said that they would be flexible, that I could decide on the topic of my choice. And after a period of reflection, a bit of back and forth in my own mind, the answer really was quite obvious. In this room are the future heads of government, future cabinet ministers, future captains of industry, future entrepreneurs, even, heaven forfend, future social media influencers. And I have been given this, the most wonderful opportunity to address the leaders of tomorrow. For whatever you choose to do, wherever life takes you, I don't doubt that most of you will end up in leadership roles. So if you will indulge me for this brief period, I would like to take the opportunity, as somebody who was in government for 12 years, in a variety of roles, to give some advice to you, the leaders of tomorrow, to hopefully impart some lessons that I have learned over the years of what to do, but crucially, of what not to do, and learn from some of the mistakes that I have made over the years. Now, for a full comprehensive list of all the mistakes I've made, please refer to my political opponents, the Scottish Press Corps, or indeed my wife. I have never physically seen her note down my mistakes, but she can recall them from memory with a disconcerting ease. So when it comes to success, however you wish to frame that, I could stand here and I could tell you all that all it takes to achieve your dreams is hard work. With hard work and graft alone, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. That would, I'm afraid, in the famous Glasgow vernacular, be complete pish. Now forgive me, that is a word I don't use often, and I don't think it's ever been used in the history of the Oxford Union. But I would say that that is mince. It's rubbish. It's codswallop. Not entirely. To a point, it is true. Of course it is. Of course you must demonstrate hard work. You must demonstrate commitment. It's crucial, in fact. But look, if you only had to work hard to reach the top of any given profession, trust me, far more people would be prime ministers, first ministers, CEOs, principals of universities, than the current small crop of individuals that achieve such senior positions in life. So while you absolutely need to work hard, my advice would be you also need to be gallus. You need to take every opportunity that comes your way and never let others trick you into believing that you're simply not good enough. Because trust me, they will try. Throughout my whole life, I've been told I'm too young, I'm the wrong colour, I'm not the right religion, I don't have the right sounding name to get to where I have in life. I've taken each of the reasons why I've been told I'm not good enough in life as a challenge that I was determined to overcome. And becoming the first Muslim leader of a Western democratic nation, the youngest First Minister in the history of devolution, the first person of colour in the Scottish Government, I think I managed in some way perhaps to prove the doubters wrong. But don't confuse belief in yourself for arrogance. As John Wooden, who was possibly the greatest college basketball coach to ever live, said, talent is God-given. Be humble. Fame is man-given. Be thankful. Conceit is self-given. Be careful. I simply mean to say that you're not necessarily better than anyone else, but you are certainly just as damn good. So ensure nobody ever lets you believe otherwise. And that then takes me to the second piece of advice that I wish to impart. You are at the most wonderful stage of life, discovering who you are, what drives you, what motivates you, but crucially also being challenged on what you believe to be true. You are learning, as we all do in life, that what you wholeheartedly believed in, without a scintilla of doubt in your mind, to be true and self-evident, is actually rubbish. And a most fabulous journey of self-discovery that you're on, along the twists and turns that you inevitably encounter, I suppose the one thing I would ask you, in fact, I would implore you, is to hold on to your values and your principles. I don't really care where you derive your values or your moral compass from, be it faith, belief, upbringing, ideology, whatever it is. We need leaders who are rooted in their values, not ones who drift from issue to issue, position to position, principle to principle, depending on what they perceive to be popular. Those who do so belong to what I call the Groucho Marx school of politics. Those are my principles, and if you don't like them, well, I have others, he famously said. And as we can see from the world around us, the forces of populism are on the rise, right across continents. Much of that populism here in the UK, Europe, and across the Western world is driven by anti-Muslim hatred. The rise of the National Front in France, of the AFD in Germany, of the Party for Freedom in the Netherlands, all driven by anti-Muslim hatred. And of course, we are not in any way immune to it here in the United Kingdom. After all, it was Nigel Farage, the MP for Clacton, or Mar-a-Lago, depending on which continent he's on, who started the general election campaign, blowing a dog whistle by saying that Muslims don't share British values. You see, populism at its purest is advocating simple solutions to very complex problems. Just take one of the most toxic debates in this country over the years: immigration. Decades of political failure to address systemic challenges in our society, from housing right the way through to the very foundations of our economy, has been blamed by successive governments in Westminster on migrants. Lazy populists will tell you that migrants are to blame for the chronic lack of housing in England. What they won't tell you is that in the last 45 years, millions of council houses have been sold off, including through policies like Right to Buy, without ever being replaced. So politicians took millions of houses out of council stock and failed to replenish them. So the housing crisis your generation faces isn't because of migrants, who, by the way, don't skip the housing queue, but is because of failures of politicians to invest adequately in housing stock over the decades. Your generation's inability to find adequate job opportunities isn't because Abdul, the asylum seeker from Afghanistan, staying in the local Ibis budget hotel on £8.86 a week, and by the way, who has no right to work, is the one that took your job. It's because successive governments have failed to sustain stable economic growth and ensure wealth is redistributed far more fairly than it currently is, not the fault of the immigrant. And the rise of that populism is accelerated by the explosion of social media. Excuse me. Be it Instagram, TikTok, the new boys about town Blue Sky, or those simply wonderful folk at X. I suspect whatever platform we use, most of us now consume our news via social media. And the truth is that the goal for many people using social media is to what? To get as many likes, views, followers as possible. And you don't get likes and views posting a 5-minute video looking straight to camera, trying to explain the importance of the medium-term financial strategy. Trust me, I've tried and failed. To state the obvious, you have to capture and retain people's attention. And that, more often than not, involves sound bites and sensationalism. Two ingredients we need less of in our political discourse, he says in what suspiciously sounds like a soundbite. So that is my plea to you, that the next generation of leaders be driven by and stand up for what you believe in, not just what is deemed to be popular. The world needs values-based leadership as the antidote to populism. At times, it may feel pretty lonely. Trust me, I for one know. Excuse me. It was days after the horrific attack on October the 7th in Israel last year that I publicly demanded a ceasefire in Gaza as First Minister. No European or Western head of government had called for one. In fact, many were openly saying that there should not be a ceasefire at the time, including the current Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. I called for peace. I reiterate that call today, because I knew that the retaliation from Israel, if allowed to go on as it has, would go far beyond a legitimate response. And of course, a ceasefire would be the best way to see the return of hostages to their loved ones. 14 months on, And this bloody conflict has left well over 45,000 Gazans killed. They didn't lose their life, they didn't pass away, they didn't die, they have been killed by Israel. A UN study has shown that almost 70% of those killed have been women and children, with the age ranges most represented amongst those killed being 5 to 9, 10 to 14, and newborn to 4, with the youngest being a day old. It should be a stain on our collective conscience that we have failed to put a stop to the murder of tens of thousands of children, especially as war crime after war crime is being live streamed into our living rooms and on our mobile phones, not hidden behind a veil of secrecy. Shame. Shame on those who try, with a twisted logic, to justify attacking hospitals, refugee camps, killing children, murdering babies, targeting aid workers. And when our children and our future generations inevitably study this horrific chapter in our history books, I hope they never ever forgive those who were silent, or worse, those who were complicit. So even if you are the only one prepared to do so, stand up for what you believe in. At the very least, what we have to do is have the courage of our convictions. On a slightly lighter note, talking of convictions, let's talk about Donald Trump. The president-elect has often been criticised for playing too much golf, for not starting the first meeting of the day until 11 a.m. Now, I am going to do something I've never done in my life, a first right here in the Oxford Union, and that is defend President-elect Trump. In truth, I have no idea what he's doing before 11 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea how many rounds of golf he's played. But for any leader, particularly one who has access to the nuclear codes, setting your boundaries and ensuring a proper work-life balance is actually quite important, crucial, in fact. And herein lies the next and final piece of sage advice that I wish to convey upon you. Don't become a workaholic. Anything aholic is never good, and that includes work. Show me a workaholic, and I will show you somebody who doesn't have their priorities right. Because if you're working 24/7, never taking a break, sleeping only a few hours a day, your mind constantly in overdrive, stress levels through the roof, then you're never going to be the best version of yourself. Your decision-making will become increasingly erratic, your judgment clouded, and you will sacrifice the very relationships we need to make us human. Trust me, I know. My name's Humza Yousaf, and I'm a recovering workaholic. You see, when I entered Parliament, aged 26, one of the youngest members of the Scottish Parliament to be elected, one of only 2 MSPs of colour at the time, I thought the only way that I could prove myself and to get ahead was to throw myself into work at the expense of everything and everyone else. I burnt both ends of the candle. I became distant from family and from friends. Even when I was present, I wasn't actually present. I was always thinking about work. In 2016, I was Transport Minister. My personal life was a mess because I hadn't drawn the very boundaries I'm talking about. Professionally, it's fair to say I was going through some challenges too. And then one day, it all came to a head. I had a breakdown. My mental health imploded. I didn't tell my family, my friends, certainly didn't tell my closest colleagues. I was ashamed to tell the First Minister at the time, worrying wrongly, of course, that she would think I wasn't up to the job because of my struggles. Eventually, I sought help, I got counselling, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in life. There have been many fantastic lessons and strategies that my counsellor has given me over the years, but the best was to take a moment each and every day to remember what is really important in life. And it is just that, life. Don't live to work, work to live. To help you do that, make sure whatever you do next, you set your boundaries from the very beginning and protect what is most important to you. Invest time, effort, emotion in the people that you love. I can promise you, there's not a single person that has passed through life in the 300,000 year history that we Homo sapiens have been around, who on their deathbed wish they spent an extra hour working. They probably regret not spending more time with their children, their partner, or their parents. So yes, work hard, work your proverbial socks off, but set your boundaries. Trust me, investing time in yourself and investing time in those that you love, it makes you a better student, makes you a better employee, makes you a better employer, will make you a better head of government, a better cabinet minister, but most important, it will make you a better human being. Throughout life's journey, which I'm very grateful to still be on, I've been blessed to learn many lessons along the way. I'm still learning. So hopefully there has been something in my contribution that will also help you in life. If so, pass it on to another. It's never any good keeping good advice to oneself. So thank you so much for your indulgence this evening. It truly has been an honour. I look forward to continuing the conversation with the President and with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.